Hello, everyone. I cannot believe this podcast is here and that we are talking about the fact that I am pregnant. It feels surreal to be sitting here and being like, yeah, I'm pregnant. Because I am pregnant. If you haven't seen the Instagram post, I don't know what we ended up doing for it because I'm recording this ahead of time. You know now. So in this episode, I am going to go through what I know you're all going to be wondering, which is our kind of conception story, if you will. How quickly we fell pregnant, what did we do, what did I do, what did Hal do, how am I feeling, all those sorts of things. So at the time of this recording, I'm about 6 weeks pregnant. I don't have my phone right now. So I'm about 6 weeks pregnant. So obviously things can change and evolve and whatever, especially in the first trimester. But I figured that I would do an episode kind of sharing what I'm experiencing now, especially for those of you that want to fall pregnant and whatnot, and especially those of you running a business. I truly know. I've talked about this actually in the episode where I spoke about the energetic reasons for infertility. If you haven't listened to that episode and you are struggling with infertility, or if you want to fall pregnant easily, so you want to make sure there's nothing blocking you, I would highly recommend actually listening to that episode. We'll link it below. But in there, I talk about some of the things that can energetically block you from falling pregnant. I will say, just for the sake of this episode, if I can't get my words together, I am struggling a little bit lately with, baby brain. I didn't realize it could happen this early, but it can. That's one of the symptoms that's kind of been the most oh my God, this is really annoying, is I literally can't even find the simplest of words / can't tie a sentence together. It's a very odd feeling for someone that is usually a very coherent speaker. Anyway, so apologies in advance for any of that. But yeah, so I am just so grateful that we have spent, I've spoken to you guys about a bajillion times over the last 2 years, we've spent so much time energetically preparing the business for me stepping into motherhood. Now, obviously, I am stepping into motherhood, and I know one of the things that allowed this transition and just me falling pregnant to be so easy was the fact that I didn't have this worry in my head of what will happen to my business, or, will I still be able to make money, or what if I am debilitated in my first trimester, that kind of thing. So I'll firstly say, I'm just kind of going to go with the flow of this, and I do have some notes, so I'll make sure I've ticked everything off. One of the things that I've really kept in mind is my mindset around this. And obviously I'm going to keep it going. I know that there could be points, and I know that for some women, there are points where it's it doesn't matter how good your mindset is, there is shit that is debilitating. And that obviously can be the case, especially if you have HG, or if you have really bad just morning sickness, or if it's you're incredibly fatigued, that kind of stuff. And I also know there's a lot that you can do ahead of time to obviously decrease the chance of you actually then being debilitated at any stage during your pregnancy. Obviously, there are some times when there's nothing that you could have done about it. But there are some times where there are things that you could have done about it, especially when it comes to nutrition and supplements and really preparing your physical and energetic body as well, which I feel should be a whole separate episode, but I'll touch on a few things. I was reading this study actually a few weeks ago before I fell pregnant about morning sickness. And because they're obviously trying to figure out what is the reason for morning sickness? Why do some women get it? Why do some women not get it? And obviously there are a bajillion different theories about it. But what I did find interesting, and I'm not saying this is the end all be all truth, but something to just note, and that I've been making sure I've been doing, is that this study was talking about how if you are low on B vitamins and magnesium, they found that has a higher correlation to women struggling with nausea. Obviously, when it comes to HG, that is what this study was also saying is that is basically unavoidable. I'll try and find the study and link it below. I found it. I need to find it again. I'll try and link it below. So anyone else that's interested in reading it can obviously read it. But anyway, so what I've been making sure I've been doing, and I was obviously doing this prior to even falling pregnant, was really dosing out my B vitamins and really dosing out magnesium. Magnesium glycinate is the best magnesium that you can take. We as humans are extremely magnesium deficient these days because our soil is so depleted of magnesium. So it is really important that you are dosing up on magnesium. And I've like doubled my dose since falling pregnant. I'm having magnesium in the morning and magnesium at night. And touch wood, fingers crossed, we're manifesting, we're keeping the mindset. There's been no nausea yet. The last couple of days I've been feeling a little bit nauseous around like 11, but usually I'm also thirsty. And so I just stay hydrated. I send the energy down to my stomach. I have some LMNT, some electrolytes in my water. Sometimes I'm having like a little bit of a cracker. I've been getting flackers, which is like flaxseed crackers. They're basically just like nothing. So it's not like you're going to eat the whole bag because it's like they don't taste that incredible. But that's also been helping a little bit as well. So back to the mindset thing. I really have been in this mindset. I've been reading this book about the difference between American parenting and French parenting. And even just in regards to like pregnancy, it's incredible how much a mindset can really shift your experience. So having this mindset of like, your whole world doesn't have to change when you're pregnant. It's not like, oh my God, you're pregnant and all of a sudden like, you can't do anything. And I think a lot of the time, and obviously like I can't speak from experience yet, but I've noticed it a lot in clients and just also in friends that have fallen pregnant, and the differences between friends and family members that have had this mindset of like, nothing is different. Like obviously things are different, but like still going to the gym, still eating the normal food, like still doing everything normal. They seem to have an easier pregnancy than those that really take on this mindset. And we all know this is true, just even not being pregnant. Those that take on this mindset of like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. Like, oh my God, everything's harder. And the reality is like, yeah, I'm fucking tired and like things are harder. But instead of being in this mindset of like the whole day, oh my God, I'm so tired. Oh my God, I'm pregnant. Everything's so hard. Instead, it's like, that's just victim. Like that's not helping anybody. It's definitely not helping myself. And it's definitely not helping me to actually be able to enjoy this gift of pregnancy. So instead, what I'm doing is like, I'm really working in batches. I have a lot more energy in the morning. So I'm getting up actually a lot earlier and going to sleep a lot earlier. So I'm getting up early, I'm getting work done early, and then between clients and early afternoon, I'm having a 20-minute nap. I'm making sure I'm slowing down. I'm making sure I'm not racing from one thing to the next. I am leaning on the support from my team, especially when it comes to like, I'm finding that I'm getting quite forgetful just with like, I don't know, we're just going to call it baby brain or whatever. Like I'm literally like, this is an example actually of like, it's not even just mindset. It's like I was on a team call earlier today and I'm trying to find this word and it's like not coming out of my mouth. Like, don't even know how to explain it. I'm sure there's some moms listening that are like, yeah, that like welcome to the club. Anyway, but yeah, I really am going to keep up this really positive mindset throughout pregnancy. And so even on that note, like exercise, obviously we all know how important exercise is just generally, and it becomes even more important when you're pregnant. And so that was one of the first signs, actually. I'm going to go through like the first kind of symptoms in a second where I was like, am I pregnant? Before I even took a test. And we're going to go through that whole thing because I was in a state of self fucking torture for 2 weeks. That state between ovulation where you've tried and then either getting your period or not getting your period is pure fucking torture. And I did it for 1 month. So I really like when I was going through this, I was just like, oh my God, my heart goes out to all the women and men that are doing this over and over and over. And sometimes for years and years and years. And that like, no wonder you can start to kind of get into this place of just like hopelessness because you're just so used to getting your period every month and not falling pregnant. And it's also just made me that much more passionate in talking about all the things physically that you could be doing for pregnancy and all of the tests that you can be doing for like nutrient deficiencies, for example, which like if you go to your everyday doctor, they aren't going to tell you, oh, let's do a test and let's test all of your nutrient deficiencies and like, what's the oxidative damage like in your body? Like they're not looking at that kind of stuff. It's made me that much more passionate on the physical side of health, pre-conception and pre just even trying, but it's also made me that much more passionate and like driven to talk more. And so I hope that you guys listening can also help me spread this message, just talking more about the impact that energetics and trauma can then have on your ability to easily conceive or obviously struggling to conceive. Because as many of you know, I have like one of my most favorite things in regards to testimonials to receive is when clients come to me and they've been struggling to fall pregnant. We do a session, they're pregnant. And that is that honestly is such a common occurrence these days where clients come to me struggling to fall pregnant and they fall pregnant. And even the other day I had another client email me and she's like, I'm pregnant. And I was just like jumping for joy for her, like jumping for joy. So yeah, like there is so much that you can do ahead of time to make this easier on yourself. But rewind, in regards to exercise, even like every single day, whether it is, I've been in an event all weekend, which like really knocked me out. Even like going to this event all weekend, I was exercising every day, even if it was 5 minutes. And literally like the first morning of the event, it was like 15 minutes of mainly stretching. And then the second morning, it was like 5 minutes of like a booty workout. And then this morning I did like a lower body workout for about 25 minutes. It's not about, oh, I have to kill myself every day or work out hard every day by any means, because my energy is definitely lower. I also, some of you would know this, since my ski accident, I've struggled with really bad pelvic pain that basically radiates into my tailbone. For a while, I thought, oh my God, I figured it out. It's actually like my glute muscles get too tight, but then I'm loosening them and stretching them. And then I sit on a plane for 2 hours and like the pain that radiates down through my tailbone is like, oh my God, excruciating. So that's something I need to work on, because obviously I don't want to be, growing this baby and getting a bigger and bigger belly and having excruciating pelvic pain. Anyway, that's a total side note. So every day I have been exercising, even if it is just stretching, because I want to stay in that habit of movement rather than like, oh, I'm tired and kind of giving myself this like rite of passage when I'm actually just being lazy of, oh, I'm pregnant, so I don't have to work out. I'm pregnant, I have to like conserve my energy. Like I also need to get my blood pumping. I also want to keep my lymphatic system going. I also want to like feel good in my body and feel like I am keeping myself looking good as best as I can, right? It's just that feeling of knowing like you're doing everything. So let's talk about some of the symptoms where I was like, oh my God, am I pregnant? Okay, first things first, our like quote unquote conception story. So we don't know like the day per se. Okay, first thing I'll say is that yes, you were trying. I mean, we only tried once, but like we were trying and we really set up this like energetic container without it being like we were like, ooh, let's set up an energetic container, babe. Like, oh, gag. But in the sense that we had so many conversations around like when we wanted to start trying, that we were ready to start trying, that we want to become parents. Like we had both. It wasn't just a single-sided conversation. Like we both were part of this conversation of yes, we want kids. And that's an important piece even on the energetic side. I was talking to a friend about this the other day actually, where it's like, okay, she's like fully energetically give me a baby right now, universe. Oh God. I said to her, is he really energetically like yes to this? She was like, actually, like he's always been like, I don't mind if I have a kid or not. And I'm like, I wonder if we would have this conversation about like energetic things that can be holding you back. And I was like, I wonder if that's the thing that's holding the two of you back, because it's not just, sometimes people just think it's this kind of programming we all have, even us women, of fertility is a woman's problem. Getting pregnant is a woman's thing. Keeping a baby, like staying pregnant is a woman's thing. Miscarriage is a woman's fault. But actually, there is two sides there is two components at play. There is two parties involved. It does take two to tango. It does take two to build a baby. And like even, for example, in the miscarriage thing, often women will blame themselves. And whilst, yes, if you're low on progesterone, that can cause a miscarriage. Or whilst, yes, if you don't feel safe, holding a baby, like energetically, if you don't feel worthy, that energetically can also cause obviously a miscarriage. But if his DNA is damaged, that can also cause a miscarriage. So the miscarriage can actually be a man's fault. And it's becoming more and more, what's the word? Oh my God, not popular. It's a terrible word to use. It's becoming more and more common, popular. Oh God, I can't think of the word, but I hope you guys get it. This is an example of my brain, where the reason for miscarriage is actually the man's quote unquote fault. Not to say it's like, we're trying to blame whoever's at fault here, but more so just for the fact of like, we're so often thinking it's our fault as women or it's our problem, but it's really not. So he needs to not only be energetically involved in I want to have a baby, because that's also really important for you to feel safe in like, oh my gosh, if I fall pregnant, he's going to be fully, yes, excited, etc. That's important for you. So the energetics are important from him, but also the physical things that he can be doing. So we both were energetically very like, yes, ready, boom, go. Obviously, we could have been playing with fire and we could have tried a little bit more, I guess, before we had our wedding. I'm glad we didn't, because that dress was tight as fuck. And knowing what I, feel like and look like even at 6 weeks pregnant, I am like really glad that didn't happen, because like with where my cycle was at, it would have been like, I would have felt it, put it that way. It wasn't like, it wasn't like, oh, I would have been like 1 week pregnant or something. Not that you actually can be 1 week pregnant, because if you don't know this, you measure from the date of your last period, not the date of ovulation, whatever, total side note. So anyway, we were like, we are going to start trying right after the wedding. Another thing also, I'll say this on my husband's behalf, is that his big thing from an energetic standpoint, very much personal preference. It wasn't like, to fit in with, it wasn't like for any other reason. We spoke about this a lot of like, is it, something that you've been programmed to believe? Is it social conditioning? And it really for him was an energetic thing that he wanted to be husband and wife. That was just an energy thing that was really, really important to him. To me, it didn't matter so much, but I understood where he came from, and that we'd had conversations, and that was like a boundary for him. He really was like, I want to be husband and wife. And so of course there was also that component of like, well, it probably wouldn't have happened then. I mean, it could have obviously beforehand, because energetically that was very, very firm on, we are husband and wife. Like I want to be husband and wife before we fall pregnant. So then obviously we went on our honeymoon, and that is where we then fell pregnant. So then we went on our honeymoon, obviously after our wedding, and that's when we conceived. So I don't know whether we conceived in Turkey or Cappadocia. Cappadocia is in Turkey. I don't know whether we conceived in Bodrum or Cappadocia, but we conceived in Turkey, vibes. I also had been manifesting and visualizing a lot, I will add in here as well, to fall pregnant, or to try at least to fall pregnant on our honeymoon. And I also had, which is of course important when it comes to manifesting anything, I also knew that it was okay if we didn't fall pregnant, and that we will fall pregnant at the perfect time when it's meant to be. I was having all these conversations with friends, and it's like, wait, if you fall pregnant in October, then, or like in September, like depending how you look at it, then, oh my God, you're going to be giving birth in like the middle of summer in Atlanta. Like, do you really want to be giving birth when it's like that hot outside? Like there was so many like, oh God, if you were really to plan it, like when would be the perfect time to give birth, when like the weather is good. And I thought about all of those things, but then I would keep coming back to this thing of like, I can't control a miracle. I can't control, like me trying to control when our child is going to make themselves known when we are going to conceive our child. Like me trying to control that is fucking crazy. So I would think about those things and like, oh yeah, but I would actually use them as like support of, okay, if we don't fall pregnant this month, here is the pro, right? Or if we do fall pregnant this month, like here is obviously the pro. If we do, like I was just, how do I describe this? If we do fall pregnant this month, obviously, yay. But if we don't fall pregnant, that's okay. Like here are the pros of not falling pregnant this month. And so it kind of gave me this, it's going to be okay energy. And I know that I'll only last so long. Obviously, after you've been trying for a while, it's like at this point you would you're not trying to plan anything. That's just like, just give me a baby. So I completely validate that. And like see those of you struggling with that. And in any way that we can help and support, please reach out. I am going to be making a conception program actually. So for those of you that are like really wanting a conception program that does the physical, but also the energetic, I will definitely be doing that, because there is so much more to talk about than we're even going to get into in today's episode. I've actually been keeping like an iNote with just every single thing prior to falling pregnant, everything I was doing, not just physically, but also little examples of like energetic things that I would do to actually support my nervous system in feeling safe in calling in motherhood, right? Because there is not just a massive physical expansion that you go through, obviously, when you become a mother. There is a huge energetic expansion. And if you can prepare yourself for more of that early on, obviously you can only prepare yourself so much, like duh. But like if you can prepare yourself a little bit earlier on, that, as we all know, that is going to make your nervous system feel safer to hold what it is that you're manifesting. That safety is a very, very crucial component in energetically being aligned with then falling pregnant and holding a pregnancy as well. So I'm going to make a conception program for that. We'll put a wait list down below. So for those of you that already know you want to be able to grab it, then put your name down below, and it will be evergreen. So you'll be able to buy it at any time, because I know it's like when you're in the midst of like, oh my God, make me pregnant yesterday, you're not wanting to wait until the next round of something. You're like, I need this shit now. So we will be able to have it for you to be able to buy whenever. And then I'm going to have a one-on-one or two one-on-ones included in the package as well, just because that one-on-one aspect is so important for your unique situation. This is not like a one size fits all, like how could it be? And I really want to make sure that it's like you are clearing everything energetically that is blocking you and making sure that you're hitting every nail on the head in regards to physical things that you can be doing for yourself as well. So we fell pregnant on our honeymoon. Obviously, it was, we were trying, it was intentional. The energy was very much there. And I told Hal, like, all right, babe, like I'm going into ovulation. He knew. And actually, even on that note, people ask, like, how do you like tell them you're ovulating without it like ruining the spontaneousness of sex and then sex becoming a chore? Because for us, what we also wanted, obviously, like after a while, it's like you just want a baby, right? For us, what we also wanted was we didn't want to feel like sex then became this like, chore or this thing to do, or this like robotic act. Cause it's like, oh shit, ovulating, have to have sex right now. Guys, if you haven't seen, we have some super extended payment plans right now for Queen Alchemy, or you can just join Queen Alchemy early, pay in full, and get access to the material ahead of time so that you have done as much as possible and gotten ahead before we start the live calls. So if you do want to join the next round of Queen Alchemy and maybe finances have been a barrier to entry before or like cock blocked you, now is the perfect time because we normally can't offer an extended payment plan this long. But because we have such a break between these two rounds of Queen Alchemy, thanks to our wedding and then the Christmas holidays and then my book coming out, it means that you get to join Queen Alchemy earlier for a longer payment plan and have a longer period of time to actually do some pre-work, which is super exciting. So all the details for that are on the website page in the description below. And so we talked about this before we even were like, okay, let's have a baby like right now, like before the wedding and all that kind of stuff. But basically Hal just said, and so this is an invitation for you to just ask your partner this, before the fact, if you can, is just ask like, babe, how do you want me to tell you when I'm going into ovulation? Like I'm at the beginning of that kind of window. And then when I'm like peak ovulation, how do you want me to tell you so that you can still be the one that is ravishing me? And but also so that you can like carve out the time, because obviously we only have a small window and then we have to wait again a month. And he told me what he wanted. And so I just did that for him. And obviously everything worked and everything was great. But it wasn't just about having sex at the right time, although that's a very important part. It was also about me energetically being aligned, him energetically being aligned, not having anything holding either of us back, and then also the physical work that we had been doing ahead of time. If you haven't listened to like the conception episode where I did about like prep and like fertility prep, I definitely would recommend listening to that because I talk through everything, and obviously I was doing that as well. So in regards to like symptoms that I had before my missed period, so firstly, I was driving myself fucking insane. Like I felt like, I actually really intuitively felt like I was pregnant. The first symptom that made me be like, was, for those of you that know, I got sick. So did Hal. We got kind of everyone from our wedding, to be honest. Like we all had way too much fun. Got really sick after our wedding. We were on our honeymoon. I had a raging fever and then it broke quite quickly. And Hal got better. And then I ovulated like a few days later. Hal got better and he was better like a few days before we'd come home. But I was getting better and then I would keep getting worse. I was getting better. And then on like the second last day of the trip, I started getting worse again. And on the plane ride home, I was like, oh my fucking God, like my throat was killing me. My sinuses, I couldn't fucking breathe. And obviously like you're dehydrated and it's like, whatever, it's a whole thing on the plane. Like not a vibe, no one wants to be sick on the plane. So I didn't yet think anything of it at that point, but it was going downhill. And then by the time we'd gotten home, I went to an event that weekend in New York. By the time we'd gotten home, it was like, I thought I was getting better again, but I just couldn't budge this fucking sickness. And like, I am still struggling with it. Like I still get like these hits of congestion sometimes, but essentially I'm still going with it. But like, I was like sick to the point where I'm like, blowing my nose, spraying throat spray for like a month, like literally a month. So that was the biggest sign, because even my friend was like, Monica, you're never sick, number one. And number two, and I haven't been sick in ages since I'd actually been like diagnosed, or whatever you want to call it, with, I try not to like stick to labels, with being celiac and actually being really anal about like cross-contamination and whatnot. And, not just like taking the wafer out of the ice cream in Italy and giving it to Hal, but actually being like, do not put the wafer in there in the first place. Since I've been stricter about that, I haven't gotten strep. And so I was like, why am I getting, like, I thought I was getting strep. And I was like, what the fuck? Like I have been so good about not eating or having any cross-contamination with gluten. So I hadn't been sick in like the last time I was sick was maybe a year and a half ago now, like that sick. So anyway, that was the first thing where I was like, that's kind of weird, but like also makes sense. As in like, so when your body's focused on pregnancy, your immune system gets suppressed. And then this is where it can happen. That's why it's bad when pregnant women get really sick, because it's so hard on their body to get rid of the sickness. Obviously, especially later in pregnancy when you're like everything is squished and your lungs are squished and all that kind of stuff. So that was one of the first symptoms. And then also this kind of like tugging, pinching, pulling sensation in my uterus. That was also one of them, but it wasn't just like for one day. So I was like going insane, right? And I was like looking up like early symptoms of pregnancy, like just don't fucking do this shit, people. Do not do this shit. Like do not recommend. It's dumb. Don't do it, because then I'm just telling that I'm like, oh, I'm not pregnant. I'm not pregnant. All right. Because no one else has these fucking symptoms. I'm not pregnant. So one of the symptoms was like tugging sensation, right? And other people had it for like one day. Well, I'm like, well, I've had it for like 2 fucking weeks at this point, on and off. Like wasn't like horrendously painful or anything, but it was like there, you know, and then it would get a little bit more and get a little bit less. Nothing where I'm like, oh wow, this is a lot. It was just there. That was also like an early symptom. And I was also quite tired. So it was like the weekend after we returned. We were away at Kiawah Island near Charleston. And I was so fucking tired. Like, and this has kind of been me since then, to be honest. Like, we're talking 5 p.m. I am ready for bed, like really tired. So that was also a big thing. But then, you know what fucked me up? So I'm like, don't look at this, people. Is I would look at my Oura ring and my temperature was like up, down, up, down, up, down. Like it would be up a little bit, as it should be, because like your progesterone is rising. So like your temperature technically should be higher. And then it would go down. It would be like minus 0.1 Celsius from like my baseline temperature. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, I'm not pregnant. And that would go up again. And that would be like and then it would go down again, but down like 0.2. And I'm like, I literally had a meltdown this weekend. I was like, oh my God, I'm not pregnant. Like my temperature's dropped. Cause I told Hal, I was like a few days before, I was like, babe, I think I might be pregnant. Like my temperature's staying high, like as it should though, because I'm in luteal phase at this point. My temperature's high and I can't get over this sickness. And like, I'm really tired. And he was like, all right, maybe you are, but it's okay if you're not. Like he was just also trying to help me like not be disappointed. And so yeah, I was really fucking tired. My temperature then started dropping. So then I was having a meltdown of like, I'm not pregnant, blah, 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 like that kind of shit. Like, oh, I'm just making this up. So in my journal, it would be like I really intuitively thought I was pregnant. So when my temperature was dropping, I was getting I think what's also was making me so emotional was just this like, but I feel like I'm pregnant. Like it was this deep feeling in me of like, but I think I'm pregnant. Like it was really deep and intuitive. And I know what my intuition feels like. But then as you guys know, especially those of you in Queen Alchemy, where I teach you guys about intuition, when your intuition, I've talked about this in episode 2, you have that intuitive nudge, right? And then your ego jumps in like a millisecond later and talks you out of it. Now, obviously, as time goes and you build your intuition, your ego becomes less and less. But I've never fallen pregnant before. So I had no past proof that what I was feeling intuitively was actually correct. And I was also really protecting myself from being disappointed, like really protecting myself from being disappointed. So I would feel this intuitive feeling, and then my ego and my fear would just come in and like talk me out of it. Like, no, you're not pregnant. Your temperature's dropped, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was like wasting, an hour every morning, like fucking Googling shit on temperatures and BBT and like all that kind of stuff with pregnancy. And then I just said to Hal after my meltdown that weekend, I was like, I have to stop wearing my Oura ring. I'm not checking it anymore. It's driving me fucking insane. This isn't helping. If I'm pregnant, like, then what the fuck with what's happening on my ring? And if I'm not pregnant, like, why do I need to drive myself insane every single morning when I open my app and look at it? And I've actually kept that up because my temperature has kept going up, down, up, down, up, down. And every time it goes down, I'm like, oh my God, is that progesterone low? And I'm freaking myself out. It's sometimes like the more you know is like not a good thing. And I'm freaking myself out. So I've just honestly stopped looking at it and like stopped looking at my temperature and whatnot. I need to put it on the pregnancy mode in a second. I need to do it actually if I'm meaning to do it. And then it will stop measuring your temperature probably for these fucking reasons. Anyway, so that was a big thing. Couldn't get over the sickness, crying easily. I mean, this is kind of normal for me with like the easily crying and being emotional, but I did feel like it was a little bit more pronounced, and it was a little bit more like, okay, I'm emotional. I cry easily. I'll be a little bit more emotional in my luteal phase, but like this is kind of another level. So that was also definitely not a big sign, but like it was just there. It was just there. And then the tiredness, like literally could not keep my eyes open. And even if like, you know, if I'm working on something in a flow at 8 p.m., I can keep going, right? That's just how I'm wired. And that's just like my generator energy. Oh, nothing could keep me going. Nothing could keep me going at 8 p.m. Like, oh, by that time, even like at 7 p.m. I mean, I have been tired enough that I don't even care. And this is like big for me, that I don't even care whether we have sex or not. Do I want sex? Absolutely. And like, it was great last night, even though I was tired, but we'd been separated for 4 days. So I was like, give it to me. That's one thing is like, I mean, now I'm like, my libido is absolutely raging, but my tiredness is like, the libido is fucking there. So I will absolutely be going if we start. But like, I'm so tired that I don't even feel like motivated to, like, by that time I don't even feel motivated to like go for it, if that makes sense, by that time. And the other things is that closer towards my period due date, I was noticing that I was getting like really out of breath. Like we have 2 big flights of stairs because we have got a 3-story house. And when I would go up the stairs, by the top, I'd be like, oh my God. And I would just notice like, okay, this doesn't normally happen for me. And then also even when I was doing Pilates and working out, like my heart rate was increasing faster. And also I was finding myself a little like out of breath more easily. It wasn't because I didn't have the energy at this point, like in the mornings and when I was working out, I actually had a good energy. So I was really using it to like push myself a little bit harder and increase my endurance whilst I had the energy to. But oh my God, the breathlessness, which I was like, okay, my lungs aren't squished yet. So like, what is happening? But that also was a really big thing. And now I understand why. Then my boobs towards the start of my period, then my boobs started to like really be like boobing and like getting fucking juicy. Which is funny because I thought that maybe would have happened earlier in my luteal phase. And for other people, it happens a lot earlier in their luteal phase, just from their story. And so I also was like, well, my boobs aren't getting every day. I'd be like, oh my God, are they getting tender yet? Like, nope. All right, damn it. So hence I was also driving myself insane with that, like every day doing a boob check. But then they started to get like fuller and just juicier and a little bit more sensitive. And then I think the day of my period, like that it was due, I woke up one morning, got up to go to the bathroom, felt my boobs, and I was like, I'm pregnant. It was like everything in me. I was just like, I'm pregnant. Like I just knew it. I think I was on like day 27 at this point. My period comes day 28, day 29, honestly, depending on the time zones. And by day 27, I think it was, woke up, felt my boobs, and I was just like, I fucking know it. And I journaled that day and I was like, I know I am pregnant. Like, it's okay if I'm not, blah, blah, blah. But like, I just fucking knew it. So my intuition was right the whole entire time. Which obviously feels good because I didn't want to be wrong. No one wants to be wrong. And also I would have been like, that probably would have really confused me and like potentially really stressed me out and like made me really angry if I was wrong, because I would have been like, what the fuck? Like, I can't trust myself. I think and that's what obviously happens for a lot of people when they lose that self-trust. It's most of the time it's from somebody else, as in they really intuitively felt like, oh, this person was cheating on me, or oh, this person is lying to me. And then the person completely gaslights them, or like quote unquote proves to them that they're not lying or they're not cheating, but actually they were. And then this person is like, okay, why was I feeling this intuitive way? Like they've proven to me they aren't doing it. So that's where that kind of like that's where we can start not trusting ourselves, and we start just completely disconnecting from our intuition and not trusting our intuition, or where our intuition has gotten us into trouble before. So we just like disconnect from that part of ourselves. And so rebuilding that can be really hard for a lot of us, and trusting that can be really hard. Like I'm even sharing with you guys, like I did not fully trust that feeling of like, I'm pregnant. And you know why? Because I kept fucking outsourcing the proof to something else. My fucking aura ring, other people's experiences of what they felt early pregnancy. Like, what the fuck? Don't do that. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because I'm like, do not do that to yourself, because my symptoms were not what anybody else that I could find were telling me. Truly not. And for other people, they have symptoms like getting nauseous or the food aversions or whatever. I don't have any of that. I've got no food aversions. I've got pretty much no nausea. I got like a little bit of like even actually just right now, it's like a little bit of like a whew, like I have to like breathe for a second. But like that kind of, yeah, I've had none of that. And so don't listen to like other people. Listen to your body and what feels different, because something was different. Something was different. So now 6 weeks on, my boobs are going to fucking explode. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is 6 weeks, what is 6 months going to be like? I'm scared for that level of pain in my boobs. Anyway, so my boobs are going to explode. I am somebody that has, and you've probably seen it in my photos as well. I keep myself, as fit as I can. I also, except for when I'm about to get my period, so my womb is like full of blood. I also, generally speaking, have a very flat stomach. And so I have been taking photos because I'm like, I'm already showing. Like, I will pull my stomach in and you'll see where I'm pulling it in. Because where you can like see on somebody's side, they're pulling their stomach in. You can see it. And then like my bottom bit where my womb is like full protrudes. Like, I would not be wearing a tight dress. Like, I'm not going to be wearing a tight dress until I have like an obvious baby bump, because you're in that stage of like, is she pregnant, or is that just like, and obviously it doesn't matter if your stomach's not flat, but it's like, for me, for my body, I'm already noticing quite a big difference. And I've been sending pictures to Hal and he's like, oh my God, like obviously he notices a difference too. So that's been happening. Like I said, I've been getting like tiny little waves of like a moment of nausea. But I've been really focusing on like setting the energy back down and nutrient dense foods. I personally have noticed that the more that I have like really protein rich, nutrient dense meals, I'm then not nauseous. And then when I'm not having those nutrient dense meals, that's where kind of the nausea can then be like a tiny bit there, but no vomiting. And I focused so much on intense nutrient density before we even tried conceiving. So like the chicken liver, spaghetti bolognese once a week, lots of bone broth, lots of slow cooked beef with beef, yes, but lots of slow cooked meat with bone in and skin on as well for chicken. Like a lot of that, just like warming, heavy on like the glycine, the collagen, the vitamin A, the B vitamins. I've been taking my prenatals for about a year at this point as well. I also did a blood test, which I recommended for you guys in the previous conception episode. I'll link it below as well. If you're in the US, you can get it. You can get the at-home kit, which is fabulous. It's like $500 to get it sent at home. I did actually mine in the clinic, but I wouldn't recommend it if you know how to like read blood tests well enough. And if you know nutrition and food and whatnot, then you can pretty much read it well enough at home, because it was like $1,000 to do it in my functional medicine doctor's office, but $500 at home because Hal did it. And it will tell you like nutrient levels of everything, oxidative damage, omega-3s, like glutathione levels. And that was where I discussed with you guys on the previous episode, like, wow, my oxidative damage was so fucking bad. And for somebody that is so incredibly healthy and has been incredibly healthy for a long period of time, that's alarming, because I can only imagine how bad other people's oxidative damage is. And so I got that done February of this year. And so I have been like going balls to the wall, increasing everything I was low on. I was low on a lot. So it's like, I can only imagine if I was low in a lot, I bet you there's so many people that are, and even the people that are really healthy, that are super low. Because what I liked about this is it told you the exact thing you were low on. So like my B12 through the fucking roof, great. My B1, non-existent, great. Let me get some B1 supplements and let me start supplementing on B1. Like those sorts of things, so that by the time I fell pregnant, I felt like I was in the best position. And I truly believe, because I've seen clients where pregnancy number one, they have like not started working with me. There's no supplements, like, or they're on like shitty prenatals, blah, blah, blah. And then pregnancy number two, the energetic work is done, because energetically, and obviously this doesn't mean that this is what you're doing, because there's an energetic component and a physical component to everything. Energetically, morning sickness or just like throwing up during pregnancy is a rejection of the pregnancy. It doesn't mean that you're rejecting your child. It means that unconsciously or energetically, is there a rejection of the pregnancy? Now, maybe not. So it could be something else. So it could be a physical component. But I always like to think, I like knowing I've done everything I can. I don't then beat myself up of like, I could have done something differently. I could have done something better. So that nutrient density beforehand is really important, because I've then had clients fall pregnant again with me, or like they fell pregnant the first time, unfortunately had a miscarriage, started working with me, fell pregnant, and then, but this time did a bunch of things before they fell pregnant again with me. And then we go through the pregnancy for a few months, no morning sickness, no fatigue, or like very minimal fatigue, all that kind of stuff. And so I've seen that for myself. And so I've created a correlation just from like, clients and just anecdotally so it's more kind of like anecdotal evidence and obviously physical evidence of like, the more you are like ready with your nutrients, the more that your body is full to the brim as much as you can basically with nutrients. I've seen those women have less morning sickness than other women that I know are not as healthy as they could be. And remember, I'm healthy and my blood work, not healthy. Really quick, guys, if you haven't joined the New Year's Eve bundle, I would highly recommend doing so. Not only is it being recorded, now, depending when you're listening to this, it's either been recorded live in 2024 at the very end of the year on December 13th, or it is being recorded live on December 13th. It is an 80-minute live masterclass. I'm taking you through a somatic manifestation practice, as well as giving you my secrets to what makes every year for me better than the last. I developed this kind of like trick, if you will, and I developed it at the end of 2021. 22 days later, I met my now husband on that faithful chairlift in Colorado. Anyway, and I have like stuck by this practice year after year. It's not too late to join if you're listening to this in January. You can still join. We are going to be cutting it off, like the ability to actually join the New Year's Eve bundle towards the end of Jan, but don't think, oh my God, because we're already in the new year, it's too late to join. No, it's never too late to start manifesting the life of your dreams. However, if you're listening to this before the end of the year, obviously do yourself a favor and get it before the end of the year, especially because there are some practices in there where I advise you to carve the time out towards the end of December and actually set that time to do some of the practices in that call again. But the things in the call, the secrets that I give you guys in this masterclass, they are not found in any other program, not inside of MMM2, not inside of her, not inside of anywhere else. So I do this on purpose so that like I'm respecting those of you that have bought other programs or that do buy other programs, and to also really keep that energy sacred of like, this is what to do at the end of the year, and then follow through with that as much as you can through the year. So everything I'm giving you is really tangible. It's action steps. It's based in what I call embodied manifestation. If you've heard me talk about that before, I actually did a recent episode where I talked about embodied manifestation in the episode too. It's not this kind of like woo-woo, fluffy, or general shit that you could just Google. We're not doing that. You guys know I don't give you that kind of stuff that you could just Google. So if you haven't already joined, make sure that you join. If you have any questions, let me know. It's only $188. It's basically a no-brainer, especially when you look at the results people gotten. And when you think about it, it's like, this is setting me up to have the best year in 2025. And it's not something that you're just doing for an hour. You are going to continue to use the masterclass and everything else in the bundle. You're going to continue to use that throughout the whole entire year. All right. I will see you guys inside the New Year's Eve bundle. Let's jump back into the episode. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you eat the right food, if you're healthy, because I classify myself as healthy. When I got my blood results back, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I have work to do before we fall pregnant. And I was so glad I got those results back, because it's not just about preparing for conception. It's also about preparing for the whole 9 months and postpartum. So I'm actually going to get that blood test done again. I'm going to just do it at home, even though I'm pregnant, because I want to know where my levels at now. Because if I still need to be improving things, or if I'm still a little bit low, I want to know so I am not completely depleted postpartum and then getting postpartum depression because my nutrient levels are non-existent. Because remember, the baby isn't taking your food. The baby is taking your nutrients. All right, I'm going to leave it there for you guys, but how exciting. I know there'll be more episodes to come, more blog posts, Instagram stories, like all the things. And I'm going to be putting like all of the things. Like, I have got the most specific examples written down in the conception program as well. So if you are wanting to find out everything that I have been doing energetically as well as physically, you guys can join there. And then I'll make a part 2 of like, I think I'm going to make a part 2 probably of then pregnancy, of like during pregnancy. And then I'll make a part 2 of then a part 3, sorry, of postpartum. Obviously, I am not a midwife. I am not an OB. I have not been trained to be a doula. I am not any of those things. So I do not know the ins and outs of the physical changes of pregnancy like any of those health professionals would know. So like, do not come into my DMs asking for that. But what I do want to be able to help you guys with is the energetic components, is the trauma components, is the things that you aren't being told by your doctors, AKA get this blood test done. Like, AKA you can increase your AMH levels. These are the best supplements to take. Like, don't take shitty supplements. Like, don't take, what's a bad one? Oh, like the ritual, I think it's ritual prenatal. Like, that's not enough. The nutrient levels are not enough. Like, take the ones that I have suggested, because I look through and through. Like, here's the EMF blanket that you need to get so that you don't have the radiation. I should have it right now. So you don't have the radiation coming in. Like, basically, you're saving yourself time from reading 1,000 books and getting overwhelmed. And I'm filtering it through me. That's essentially what the program is going to be about. Really, the energy and the expansion that you're stepping into, and the mindset, and that kind of like the her energy in terms of becoming like your dream mother self, your dream mama, whatever you want to call it. All right, that's it. We're pregnant, and I will see you guys in the next episode.